Mistakes suck, but I love them. Well, I'm starting to love them. I initially hated them, but I'm starting to love them. Mistakes, when we're talking about mistakes and it as a subject, it's a very broad thing. Like, there are so many things that go into it. But in this video, I'm talking about mistakes, particularly when learning something, when learning a skill, or when you're making something or building something. Because we all know that feeling, when we are working hard on something. It's something that, we're really passionate about. We research, we look at videos, we start the project, we go through the project, we suffer through the middle, and then we finally reach the end. Then we look at it, and it doesn't look great. In fact, when you look closely, you notice that you made a couple mistakes, which you didn't see initially when you were making the project. And that's supposed to be normal, right? You will fix the problems and then it will get better next time, right? That's how it should go normally. But we live in a different age. We live in the age of the internet. That makes things different for a beginner or an amateur. Because on the internet, as long as you don't come out with top tier work, all your mistakes will be harshly criticized. You will be brought down to absolutely nothing. You cannot be a beginner. You cannot have a learning skill. Because according to the internet, mistakes mean that you have no standard at all. You are aspiring to nothing. And they're wrong. Because in their view, a mistake or mistakes mean that someone doesn't have a standard. When in reality, mistakes means that there's an error along the journey to reaching the standard. So you already have a standard that you're working up to, but you're just along the way. It doesn't mean that the standard is not there. Yeah, so if someone is along the way to reaching a standard, I don't see why they need to be crushed or they need to, their confidence needs to be obliterated before they even reach where they're supposed to go. Mistakes are a learning process. So we start from the beginning and then you reach the end. How do you think you're going to get there if there is no in between? Mistakes are the in between. So we'll get on to how people give constructive criticism, because the way they do it. But going back to the person who's learning and who's making those mistakes, and they're frustrated by those mistakes, they should remember, or I should remember, is that the fact that you've identified that you've made mistakes means that you're going to get better, because you can already see where you need to improve. Because a person who doesn't know or doesn't see ways that they can improve, those people never get better. They stay where they are. They never reach a higher standard. But you, who's able to notice your mistakes, that means you know there's a higher standard and you can reach it because you've already found where to start. But someone may say, why don't they just get good? Well, nobody's perfect. So regardless of how you want to pretend, you're gonna make a mistake eventually along the way. So might as well accept mistakes as something that will happen and just learn how to deal with them and prevent mistakes that you can prevent, but correct mistakes that you have made. But does that mean that you should never be satisfied with what you are able to do now? Because, perfectionist me used to hate how my art was at the moment. I could recognize my mistakes, but I also hated where I was. But that's not fair. you shouldn't hate where you are at the moment. Because sometimes, even when you're able to identify the mistakes, you just can't change them just yet. Let me give an example. Like, if you think about uh, a baby who's like a healthy 2 months old baby who doesn't know how to walk, would you be mad at the baby for not walking? No, you wouldn't. Because you know, right now, the baby doesn't have the muscles or the bones to be able to do that. Equally, you wouldn't be mad at an 11-month-old, a healthy 11-month-old, who's trying to walk but falls down in the process. Because you know, eventually, they are going to get strong enough to be able to walk on their own. So that's the same with any of us learning or on our journey, either in drawing or making anything, is that sometimes you're just not at that level yet, and it will need time for you to be able to unlock the skills and the mentality needed to reach there. Oh, that was a lot of rambling. I don't think I made a joke in a while. Let me correct that. Now, sometimes you're not going to be able to learn from your mistakes on your own. You need someone to help you with that, by giving you constructive criticism. Now, as regards to how people give constructive criticism, man, have I seen some really bad examples. Because people tend to not know something called time and place, as well as motive. Because I'm sorry, but in my opinion, I don't think a comment section is the best place to criticize something, to give constructive criticism. Because every time, despite the best intentions you may have, when you try to do that, it just devolves into an argument that really amounts to nothing. Now, if you're truly honest-hearted and you're not just in it to drag someone down, I think a more better approach would for you to DM the person with, and this is the standard I hold for constructive criticism. Constructive criticism has to be fair, balanced, and given in such a way that it does not demean the person that you're talking to. Because if you really want them to improve, there is no need for you to drag them down, to make them feel less than human just for failing to draw a nose. But if a person feels like you really care about them improving, and when they hear you, they hear that concern, they are most likely going to actually take your advice. Because I don't believe that whole, I'm just telling you the truth, yet the way you're conveying it is like you're using it as an excuse to use that person to throw all the insults you've been penting up for a certain, for I don't know what, all that frustration you've been holding up, then you use it now. Because you know how to criticize, now you're throwing it in someone's face with all those insults, with all that hate, just so that you can vent your frustrations towards them personally for whatever reason. I don't think that's proper criticism. But then, going back to us who are making stuff, what if we reach a point where, despite our best efforts, we just can't reach that standard? We just can't manage to get where we are or reach that level. It is possible that we may not be able to figure it out. And that's okay. Why so? Because the skills that you learned when you are going through that experience, you can now use it in your next project. Like, I'm not very good at animation. It's like I literally do the simplest animation possible. But in my process of learning animation, it taught me how to edit videos. So I don't think if I didn't try to learn animation, I wouldn't have learned how to edit videos. And you wouldn't be seeing this whole channel. It wouldn't have existed if I didn't try to learn something else. So sometimes the skills that you learn from a different project you're working on can help you with something else, even if you don't become very good at that particular skill. And that's the good part here. This is why I'm trying to change how I view mistakes. Because mistakes do suck, but I love them. Thanks so much for watching. And guys, we're about to reach 1,000 subscribers, so it would be nice. Now, the only people who should subscribe are the people who are actually gonna watch the videos. Because if you're not gonna watch, I don't wanna see you here. Yeah, you shouldn't be here. Okay, you shouldn't be here. Maybe you just want to watch my animated shorts. Maybe you should do that. Maybe you should do it right now.